welcome back. You're watching Morning Express. This is Your Money, where we take a look at business, entrepreneurship, and so much more that concerns money management and business. And today we are joined by our guest Nathan Loyd, who is the CEO of Avoveg Limited. He is an avocado exporter in the country, and we are going to be talking about the impact of the UK market closure and dwindling Far East opportunities, as well as how the third wave of the coronavirus is affecting that export business. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Loyd.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I'll start briefly just by getting an overview of what is the current state of avocado and fresh produce market is right now. What is the state, or quite simply put, how is business doing right now?
Business is difficult. Business is, for us specifically, we're still facing numerous challenges. With the uncertainty now of the third lockdown, it makes it difficult. For example, a case in point is even with the special passes that we have for movement and even for our farmers, they're still getting harassed and stopped by the police. Are these genuine documents? So then we have delayed investments with the investors that were set to come in, even especially from the UK, who have decided, since Kenya's under the third lockdown, they have decided to wait.
Yeah.
So it's a wait-and-see approach.
Okay, so if you were to compare and contrast, what would have happened by now if there had been no coronavirus and all those restrictions and the challenges that are being brought on by the current pandemic and other geopolitical situations, where would the business be right now? How would the markets have been right now?
The markets, if you look at a case in point, of course, looking at even going back to 2020, or I would compare with 2019.
Yes.
2020, we performed at 20% of our capacity, facing numerous challenges because our containers go by sea. So with the lockdown, the containers remained basically on suspense, remained on the high seas, unable to dock into the specific country. So performing as an entrepreneur and businessman, performing at 20% of any capacity means already there's going to be a chain reaction.
Yeah.
Our chain reaction in meeting our commitments, even with our bankers and support. So anyone who says that it's not that bad does not own a business.
Now, and we're talking about fresh produce, so I would imagine it's quite the challenge if you're facing problems despite having the special permits and passes. Then how do you keep up with business, and especially when you're talking about exporting outside of Kenya? How does one stay afloat?
Well, it makes it very difficult to stay afloat. We still have to overall keep still our staff members because they have been with us for many years, so it makes it difficult for our cash flows. Then we have our bankers who are quite a few banks in Kenya. Other exporters will also confirm the same. We have very understanding banks in Kenya who just say, let's go for a wait-and-see approach, which is, it's not benefiting us in any way. If you look at some of our importers, on the other end, the government has supported them with them. They have taken on loans that are interest-free for 1 full year. So on the Kenyan side, it's just a matter of trying to see how to survive.
Right, and then how have you been surviving? You have people who are depending on this business that is not doing as well. Have you had to learn new tricks to stay afloat, alternative markets? What are the solutions that you have found as you go along with a very unpredictable time?
What we've done is one of the key things we've done to stay afloat is actually dig into all our reserves, both company reserves, and also as directors, myself and my co-director, even our personal reserves, we've had to pump it into the business. Yes, we're looking at alternative markets. As we speak, we're looking at Jordan. We're looking also at doing some exports to the Middle East to try and cushion these blows that we keep on facing. So
right.
For the most part, we have dug into all our reserves to keep us afloat.
Now, with government support, the Far East was seen as a very viable option for exports, particularly of avocado. What went wrong with that? How could you explain how that stopped being quite, or rather how those opportunities dwindled?
Okay, we talk about the Middle East, we'll be talking about also, let's even look at China. I think what went wrong is how things were discussed and negotiated with China when we had the government and our president negotiating, not understanding the agri-sector. In terms of one case in point is that you had to freeze the avocados to -40. Now, freezing the avocados to -40 or -30, it destroys the very fiber of the avocado. So I think negotiations are not done with the key stakeholders, which are the entrepreneurs, the ones who are actually in the game in our case, of doing avocados. So it was started off wrong, and that's why till today it still has not been rectified. I think the government can focus more on understanding really what needs to be done from the agricultural side, which very little is done on that end.
Okay, and to bring about that understanding, what would you have the government do during the negotiation process and even in terms of execution? Bring on board stakeholders, or what should happen to ensure that they're not signing off on deals that cannot actually be seen through?
What would happen is always in my view is take someone from that specific sector. If like when the president travels or government officials travel, don't only travel with politicians, travel with those who are actually in the area field. We can afford to pay for our community. We're not asking for the government to pay. We can afford to pay, but we want to put in our input and add in our insight, because we're the true reality. And of course, we all know that the private sector, the SMEs, are the backbone of supporting the economy in Kenya or anywhere else in the world.
Okay, and far from that, could you tell us then, far from that issue of there not being enough representation when we are signing off on certain deals or ensuring we're trying to tap into certain markets, let's talk about standards. Has it been difficult for you to keep up with the international standards? Because in order to export, the levels, the quality has to be to a certain level. Has this been an issue?
For us, it has not been an issue because we follow all international standards. We have to look at the fact our clients have guide us, and they technically are our bosses. So as far as that goes, we have to. It's not been difficult for us. We have followed all standards and providing all documentation and certifications, the global gap, the organic, all certifications that are required, including our social certification. So it's been costly to have those certifications, but it's something that's necessary if we want to continue to export, in our case, avocados.
Yeah, and I love that you brought up the issue of cost, because, and also, could you paint a picture, particularly, not for you, but for an average farmer or an average business person in Kenya? How feasible would it be for them to keep up with those quality standards, and what would they have to do? Would they have to get support from banks in order to keep it up? Because it's not quite easy for any other person, any grower, to be able to rise up to that level and ensure that what they're exporting out of the country gets that green light.
It would be extremely difficult when you refer to like the small-scale farmers and the different form of farmers to be able to do that kind and get the kind of certification. A case in point, for our current certifications as a company, we are paying in excess of 4 million Kenyan shillings just to get all our current certifications. So it is costly. It's something that would be, for the small-scale farmer, would be out of their reach. In terms of the banks, to answer your question, the banks would look at it this way in terms of the true reality of the banks. If the bank is not going to benefit from interest, then they will not be interested. They're not interested to offer support. Majority of the banks, I may not say all.
And also in terms of information, do you think the average farmer is well equipped with information to know how to go about the business? Even if there's a ready market, let's talk about, for example, the China aspect. Or do you think the average Kenyan farmer would know even how to go about to get to the level of interacting and therefore striking deals and doing that exchange with foreign nations?
The average farmer will not get enough information. We do have some form of technical support. We ourselves as Avoveg, we do training. It's very costly, but it's something that we do. So the average farmer, without having other exporters, and including ourselves, we want to do more. We want to do more training, more to sensitize the farmers about the value of husbandry, how to take care of their avocado trees and all the rest. So do they get enough? I would say no. We do our best based on the limited resources that we have. With, of course, with support from the government would be a huge plus, and that would be what I call a huge stimulus package.
And in many nations, you'd see farmers such as these or exporters banding together to form sort of corporations so that they can work together. Does this happen in this country, or is that a feasible option to look forward to in the future as they strive to get into the business or keep business going, or at least keep up with difficult times such as these?
The farmers coming together and forming associations, it's something that has started to happen. Kenya in the world, we're the seventh largest exporter of avocados in the world, so we are still on the top 10, which says a lot about what the different farmers have been doing, different business men and women have been doing related to planting avocado trees. So, but the farmers are not yet as organized as when you look at surrounding countries like, let's say, Peru or Colombia. They're a much better organization. But you also have, when you look at Kenya, the avocado fruit. It's the largest fruit that we export out of Kenya. If you look at case in point, let's say like Mexico, they actually have a minister just for avocados, so that you look at what are the revenue streams the country is earning, especially on foreign, and you get someone. Even we have a Minister of Agriculture, but would have like a sub-minister, let's say, for tea, and then for areas that are really boosting the Kenyan's economy.
Okay, and first, then speaking of the difficulties that the exporters are facing, let's talk about the impact of the UK market closure. Before this, there was also Brexit that made things a bit more complicated especially when you look at trade and how Kenya will be relating to the UK and the larger European region. But now there's also the UK market closure. Tell us about that and how that is affecting business.
It has a direct effect in business. The UK, of course, before was part of Europe, but
yes.
Either way, we do export also to Europe. So when there's a form of uncertainty, even for the importers, then we go on what I call the wait and see approach. Now, the wait and see approach means that we literally almost come to a grinding halt, trying to figure out how long will this third lockdown last. Yet, in overall fairness, I don't think that the spread of the COVID creating the third lockdown, I don't think it came from SMEs. We all know that it's more drive has come from the political gatherings that have created the third spread of COVID.
Okay, and so moving forward, what do you hope to see? And of course, what changes would you like the government to put in place, especially when it comes to taxation and just even subsidies to ensure that the farmers stay afloat, even though you have tried in your own way to survive these times? What would you hope to see from government and perhaps even the foreign markets to ensure that these times are easier for the Kenyan exporter?
From government, I would more or less say would really like a genuine listening here. Specific government officials, especially if it's in the agri sector, which we're discussing right now. We don't have someone who's actually listening to the SMEs and getting the feedback on the ground. Otherwise, it's more or less one is floating in the clouds, not realizing what's genuinely happening on the ground. So. Would want a government that's more interactive and actually genuinely getting together and listening to what are the challenges that we are actually facing on the ground, myself and also other exporters.
Okay, so if the would-be person to effect change you are watching right now, what, as your closing remarks, would you say to them with the hopes that they would actually actualize your thoughts and have your concerns addressed?
It would really be, as the closing remark, it would be take a pause, take time to realize, because maybe the person, of course, in politics, I don't know if they've ever owned a business, but take time to actually, even if it's a small group of SMEs in the agri sector, where we can sit down and actually genuinely say, these are the challenges we're facing. It's being done in Europe, where they have sections even for the importers. So I say pause and take some time to actually listen to how we are bleeding and how challenges that we're facing and what we recommend for us to pull back up.
Okay, thank you very much. That is Nathan Loyd, CEO of Avoveg Limited. He is an avocado exporter, reflecting on the situation with the UK market closure, dwindling Far East opportunities, as well as the effects of the third wave of COVID-19 on business right now. Thank you so much for making the time to join us here on Morning Express. And now on to international news. With Africa falling behind the global vaccination race, the continent's leaders and international health experts on Monday called for an ambitious but achievable